welcome to the hood. What it's up, everyone? It's your man, Jack Pigadu, the Hood Sommelier. And I have to be honest, this is something I've planned for a while, but yet I forgot to actually plan for it. But I have somebody special in the hood today. I will let him introduce himself when it come on. But for you guys that love single malt, there is one I like to say known, but also not really known secret when it comes to single malt is most people want to go to a specific brand because that's the brand I like. But have you ever considered independent bottlers, right? Because if you think about it, independent bottlers are probably one of the people that will give you the best juice out there. And maybe you end up paying less than what you need to pay. So I love independent bottlers because I feel like they're the one who can give me access to some juice that I will never get a chance in my life to get. But they will also charge me a fair price. But this specific independent bottler is kind of cool in the way they do things, and we are going to get into it. But I need to drink. Without further ado, I'll bring in my man, the one and only Mr. Charlie from Independent Bottling. Is Signatory, but it's Total Beverage. That is the independent bottle company, I believe. My man Charlie, welcome to the hood. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you taking your time to talk to us. You represent a brand that I love so much and that I'm obsessed with. As a person that loves single malt, I've realized that I can chase bottles, or I can actually find all the independent bottles out there that are offering such a good product and just go for it. So if you're watching right now, make sure you share with your friend. If you're on Facebook, make sure you share with people that are around. Like the video, show some heart, and let's give a nice Hood Sommelier. Welcome to the hood. Welcome to Charlie. Charlie, welcome to the hood.
Thank you. Thank you. First off, let me raise a glass to you. It's awesome to be here. Much like you, I'm in need of a drink. I really appreciated that intro that you gave, and you already gave me about 50 different areas that I want to jump off into. So I don't want to hog the microphone too much, but just to give a bit of introduction, a bit of context, add a couple layers onto what you said, and then we can get into whatever questions you have for me. So you mentioned Total Beverage Solution. That's actually the importer for Signatory in the US. So we bring all of the Signatory bottles over. I work for them, and I'm the national brand manager for Signatory here in the US. Part of my job, which woe is me, is I actually get to pick which casks we're going to be bringing over to the U.S. and selling. Whoa. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I know.
So you are the reason why I'm not getting the good stuff.
It's all my fault. You got to call me direct. Now you got my number. You call me direct. You'll get the good stuff in the mail. No, we're trying to bring over some really awesome stuff. I know we've just put in our next order that's going to be coming in the summer. We planned out our schedule coming into the holiday. So we got some really exciting stuff coming. For the people who don't know what Signatory is, or who don't know what an independent bottler is, I think you did a great job teeing it up there. Independent bottlers source their whiskey from the distilleries all over Scotland. And one thing people may not know is it's actually where single malt started, was with independent bottlers pretty much. You know, a distillery, before they were these big international conglomerates, big international brands, they would sell to their local grocer just a whole cask at a time, or they would sell to their friends of the family a whole cask at a time. And that's kind of how people would enjoy single malt. Most anything that got exported was already being blended as early as the early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s. Single malts didn't really start getting exported until Glenfiddich started it in the 1960s, 1970s. So if you look, you can see bottlings or vintages of single malt that are earlier than that. Those all came from independent bottlers. Another thing that's really cool with independent bottlers is only about 40%-ish of single malt distilleries around Scotland actually sell a branded product. So if you're someone who, like yourself, wants to explore a lot of those flavors, wants to explore all of what Scotland has to offer, you don't even get 60% of it if you just look for what the brands are on the shelf. The other 60% are used exclusively in blends. So if you want to try it as a single malt, you have to go to an independent bottler.
Yep.
Then looking at Signatory, they take it one step kind of further, where they do everything. They call it the single malt. Everything is from a single distillery, from a single distillation run, and then from one single cask. So I can see, you got some of those Four Roses single casks right behind you. I'm sure your audience is well familiar with single cask and how you kind of get a more concentrated and more diverse range of flavors than you might from a standard offering. So an independent bottler like Signatory, who focuses on selecting the best casks and bottling them as single casks, lets you see so many different nuanced perspectives on what a distillery offers.
And that's probably one of the greatest thing they pride themselves on, is one distillery, one, when you go on their website, it's the rule of 1-1-1, right? And, one cask, one distillery. And you think about it, a lot of people always had their single malt at, let me see, between 40 to 40, between 40 and 49% ABV. That's what most people are getting their single malt at. And your life have not been blessed till you've had cask strength single malt, right? I tell people, if you think you like Scotch, if you think you love single malt, your life will change when you get cask strength. So that's what brought me to actually Signatory, because if you see behind me, there's a lot of vintage expressions that you're looking at, and most of those vintage expressions are all cask strength.
I like to say,
wait a minute. How is it that all these people are giving out cask strength, whiskey, when all my whiskey that I drink from all my Scotland whiskey are all below 100 proof? So you get into it and you go, oh my God, it's tastier, it's different, it's better. And all of a sudden you go, okay, maybe I should not buy what I usually buy anymore. I should probably focus on getting those. So it changed my life about 5 years ago when I discovered, I'm like, you know what? No more. And as an independent bottler, tell me, how does the process go? Because being somebody who buy Scotch from abroad, right, or from Scotland or UK, and somebody who buys it here, how did they decide? I know you're the one who say you decide how things go, but how did they decide what comes here?
Sure. Right. Well, I just decide out of the casks that are available which ones we get. So we've got Andrew Symington, who heads up Signatory, has done so since 1988. He actually runs Signatory and Edredour, and he selects the casks. Sorry, it looks like we might be frozen here. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I know, but we good now.
Okay.
Yeah, we good. Yep.
So Andrew Symington, who has been running Signatory since 1988, he actually selects which casks they bring into their warehouse. And okay. I get the question all the time, when we buy a cask, are we buying new make? Are we buying something we're bottling it the next day? What actually are we buying when we bring in these casks? And usually the answer is it's somewhere in between. Things usually sit and age in the warehouse for a number of years. It's not bottled right away, but it's also not new make.
If I may interrupt you for a second. Sure. So I know that there is like the regular expressions, right, of Signatory, and obviously the vintage expression. Does that mean that, these vintage expression I have some are 20 years old, right? Are you guys buying 20-year-old cask, or are you buying them and still storing them, in your distillery, saying, hey, we taste this, not quite ready. Let's let it sit for this much year. How does it go? Because if I'm drinking a regular expression, which most of them are actually not cask strength, right? But the vintage expression are all cask strength.
Right. So you absolutely nailed it. They bring most of them in and they see their potential. And they wait and they continually taste through the warehouse. They've got thousands of casks and they are tasting them regularly. There's literally 3 guys. So that's a job that I wish I could have. They go and do quality control daily in the warehouse. And just so you have an idea, they are so finicky and picky about making sure they bottle at the precise right time, right? So with Signatory, since it's all a single cask, on every bottle, it tells you the date it was distilled and the date it was bottled. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you'll see on there that the bottling date is like a week before they would have been able to get another year on the age statement. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And if you think about it, the consumer generally thinks older is better. So if they just waited another week, they'd be able to say it's 15 years instead of 14 years or what have you. But they may taste it and say, it's ready. It needs to be bottled. And they take it right then. They won't even wait that extra week just for the year to roll over. They try to bottle at the precise right time. Back to your other question about the different ranges. So in the US, there are 3 ranges. That's a little different abroad. But we have our 86 proof range, 43%. They come in kind of the beige tins. Then we've got the unchill filtered range, which are the ones you're holding right there. That's at 46% and is unchill filtered. And then we've got our cask strength range, which you're referring to as the vintage range. So the cask strength is usually the kind of most premium or the felt to be most able to stand on its own. Doesn't want dilution. It's showing absolute brilliance and character. Even at those proofs, even if you're drinking some of these, I think this Buna Heaven we're going to drink is a little over 60% ABV.
Oh yeah, that's 62.
62, yeah. They stand up to that proof though.
Make you turn into a man right away.
Hey, don't hate on the women drinkers either. All right.
No. I'm just saying it grows some chest on your hair. So I don't think women want chest on their hair. So hair on their chest. I'm sorry. That's how.
Either way, I don't want any chest on my hair. I got plenty of hair on my hair. I drink cask strength all the time, so maybe that's why. But yeah, so these are going to be distilleries that are going to be more often name brand distilleries are going to be reserved until they're right for that cask strength. They're going to be the casks that are the pinnacle of what's in the warehouse. They're going to be older age statements typically, although I'm personally finding a lot of fun in bringing in some younger bottlings at cask strengths.
Charlie, don't do it.
Hey man, we're going to be drinking that Buna Heaven Stoisha tonight. It's a 2014 vintage. That thing's not even 6 years old, and I think it drinks like it's 15.
Okay. So, hold on. Let me grab a glass. We need to pour something.
Let's pour something.
The question that have been just turning in my head since you were talking had to do with is there an agreement between Signatory and where they bind the new make to go, you need to have our name on it? Because they could have just gotten something, right? And not disclose where it's from. But you look on every one of them, you have Buna Heaven, you have Glenrothes, right? You have Glenrothes, you have, what do you call it? Imperial. All these names that right? Or maybe you own a version of, and you go, why? Why would they want to do that?
So that's a big difference between the US industry and the Scottish industry, and it has a lot to do with tradition. So in the US, if you're sourcing your bourbon or if you're sourcing your whiskey, a lot of the time they don't want you using the brand name or the trade name on the bottling itself. They want you to create your own brand around it. Because of that history in Scotland, where independent bottling is kind of where a lot of this originated, there are a lot of agreements between the bottlers and the distilleries that it's okay to use both names. So you'll see that on the bottle, it lists both Signatory and the distillery that it came from. There's a lot of tradition there. What we are starting to see is some distilleries are starting to get more protective of that. So you'll almost never see, for instance, an independently bottled Balvenie or an independently bottled Glenfiddich. They do not want you. And more recently, so up until maybe 5-10 years ago, Macallan would let you use the name. Now, less often. Same with Highland Park as well as just a couple. So every once in a while, you'll see from Signatory, for example, unnamed Speyside or unnamed Orkney or unnamed Isla. And that just means that, that distillery didn't want you representing the name brand on there.
Don't use my name.
Exactly. But as a savvy whiskey consumer like yourself, you know that there are only so many distilleries that refuse to let you use the name. So it brings it down to a pretty small subset. And normally if you can't use the name, you know that the juice is going to be good because it's one of the few that wouldn't let you.
That's true. That's true. Let's pour something because I've been so it seemed like you guys have a lot of Buna Heaven. And I want to know more about that because for some reason, every time I look up anything that has to do with, Signatory Vintage, I found more Buna Heaven. And it's quite interesting because 5 years, 13 year, I think 20 year, no, yeah, 11 year, 5 years, and 13 year. I found each one. Do you guys have a good relationship with them? Is that why, or have you bought a bunch of their stock previously and you're like, you know what, we have enough, we're gonna put it out there?
So that's pretty accurate. Here in the US, we are doing a lot of Buna Heaven. It's a product that we are wanting to have on an ongoing basis. So if you look at these first fill sherry Buna Heavens that we have, you'll notice that they're 2007 vintage. And then every year we're bringing in a cask that's 1 year older. So Andrew procured a lot of 2007 vintage first fill sherry casks because they fit the style that he was going for. And we're just gradually drawing those down year after year. But we're trying to pretty much make sure that we have one cask of that offering each year. It looks like we might be running low on those 07 vintage Buna Heaven first fill sherries, though. I don't know if we're going to be able to bring one in this year. So the fun might have stopped with this 13 year that we're going to taste a little later tonight. But we're seeing if maybe there's something lost in a corner of the warehouse, or maybe we can find another one, because these have been absolutely beautiful start to finish.
So this Buna Heaven, you guys are very transparent. That's one thing I really like. Very transparent. So this 2014 Buna Heaven is heavily peated. 5 years old. The date even of the bottling is so precise. September 21st, 2020. Matured in Dakar, I believe.
Decharred and recharred hogs.
Decharred and recharred. Okay. Hedgehogs. Okay. I was wondering about that. And of course, natural color. And this comes at 59.7 ABV,
which is actually pretty low given it's only 5 years old.
That is low. That is very low.
And I saw you were cracking the seal on this one, so you haven't even tried it yet.
No, because actually my next question is coming, because there is a reason why I haven't cracked that one. Because I've been obsessed with the Total Wine, the Party Source selection one. So we got beef, my brother. How is it that Party Source get to have their own Signatory? And I've been obsessed with Signatory forever, and they're the only one I've ever seen that have their own, like, special Signatory. How does that happen?
So that goes through me. We've got a team that's in market.
This is all your fault.
Hey,
blame Charlie, right?
I'm putting it the other way around. It's all your opportunity. If you want to buy your own cask, you can call me and I'll work with you to get a cask for you. You can put your own label on it. You can say selected by Hood Sommelier or for fans of the Hood or whatever you want to put it.
Okay.
And we can work together to get you a cask that you love. And that goes out for anyone listening too. You can contact me and we can work together if you want to get a cask, if you have a whiskey group that's interested in doing a cask. So Party Source being one of Total Beverage Solutions clients across our portfolio, we reached out and worked with them to help to get them a cask that they were interested in. So
this is actually a thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. They're probably
somebody's already in. So this is crazy. So you guys not only are independent bottlers, you allow your customers per se to be able to pick their own cask from you.
That's right. And so that's obviously a common thing in bourbon. You go visit the distillery and you grab, you can grab your own cask. It's very uncommon in Scotch that you're able
Correct.
to do that. And so it's a pretty unique offer, and it's a pretty exciting one, because once travel comes up again, ideally, you'd get on a plane with me, we'd fly over to Scotland, and we'd tour the warehouse, and you'd get to sample things straight out of the cask.
It is in part of my my quote unquote future project, to be able to introduce a one of a kind tasting single malt to the world.
Well, let us work with you when that time comes.
Because I will be honest, till 3 months ago, I had no idea you guys could. No, till 4 months ago, I walk into Party Source, I see vintage Signatory. I'm excited. I'm like, whoa, I don't get to see it because I'm in Nebraska, and I never seen it on the shelf in the Midwest. It's always on the coast that I find it.
Mm-hmm.
Which, Charlie, wink, wink, you need to actually distribute in the Midwest. That's what we need to work on. But I walk in and I see this and I start reading on it. I'm like, it's a 10-year Glenrot, 64% ABV, by the way. And I go, okay. And then they look at the bottom and they go, selected and bottled for Party Source. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Not only they have a Signatory, a vintage one at 60 some percent, they also are their own cask. And I talked to one of the guys, their expert there, and he goes, yeah, we bottled this one our own. I'm like, okay, now I need to reach out to Signatory because we need to talk. I used to be a fangirl in the corner, fanboying you guys, not saying anything. Everybody knows I love single malt. But I was like, no, that's when I reached out actually to you. I'm like, no, we need to talk. How is this possible that it's possible to get your own cask? Somebody's already calculating how much does it cost to have your own cask.
I'll answer that question in a second. I'm just happy that you decided to stop being the fangirl in the corner at the dance and decided to come ask me. Let's have a dance, Let's
truly, because I was like, there's no way. And I would tell you guys, through my life, I've spent a lot of money on single malt, and I have really old single malt. But I can tell you, I've never been disappointed yet with Signatory. Never been disappointed yet. So if you guys never picked up a Signatory, if you are here right now, if you live in Ohio, go to Party Source. They have some, but I know I'm the one who got the last 2 that were on the shelf 2 months ago when I went to pick up mine. So I don't know if there is still more in the back. But if you guys look up Signatory, I have friends in Florida, Texas at Total Wine that actually were able to find me some that I was looking for.
Also, Specs in Texas, they're going to be bringing over a bunch of so they've picked a bunch of their own casks.
Okay.
K&L in California has a couple coming.
K&L is huge. Yeah.
Binny's in Illinois has a handful of casks coming in. We got a couple other retailers spotted around who are working on theirs as well. So there's going to be a nice new crop of Signatory coming in. I see Charles Ashworth here is asking, what's the ballpark price on a cask?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it really depends. Normally, you can have a lot of different distilleries, and they charge us different prices to buy the casks. Mm-hmm. And then obviously the age impacts it. So, something that's kind of young and maybe not as name brand of a distillery, you may be able to pick up a cask for about $8,000, and you're probably getting around 200-ish bottles out of that.
That's
not bad. It's not bad. But it goes all the way up to tens of thousands of dollars. We've got Lafroig casks and things from the early 90s, even some things that are floating around still from the 80s. We've got our 30th anniversary series. Some of the bottles are available. We have some Buna Heaven. We got a 43-year-old Buna Heaven from 1975.
Wow.
Full term sherry cask maturation. That cask is pretty wild. So those can get pretty up there in price if you're looking for something like that.
Something that's special. Yeah. Wow, 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 wow.
So what do you think of this now that you took your first sip? Do you agree with me? It drinks a lot older than 5 years old.
Yeah. It is expected for me. The peat is literally, I mean, the nose tells you the peat, but there's a sweetness behind the peat, right?
It's barbecue peat. It's not. It's
Correct.
not your normal Isla.
Right. That's what I was about to say. It's a different type of peat. Is hot but not smoky, and obviously, but the sweetness like pears and peach stays, and you almost don't even get the smoke. You're literally going for. I'm maybe because I drink a lot of Isla, but I'm picking up all sweet notes. I'm talking apple, beautiful pears, and very light white fruits.
But I do think even though it's not super smoky, it shows a lot of peat. And a lot of people don't think about the difference between peat and smoke because the way you get the smoke in there is the peat. But usually when peated malts age, as I'm sure you'll agree with, the smoke calms down and instead you get more earthy, mossy, decayed vegetation, sort of fall leaves. And this brings through plenty of that with all of those fruits and some of the coastal notes. And so this is a cask I actually picked out myself. It's one that we were offering on our custom cask list. So retailers had the option to buy this one. And after a couple of retailers passed on it, I tasted it and I said, nope, we're bringing this cask in. We're making this nationwide. And we ran with this cask and it's done really well.
So how does distribution works? Because I realized I don't know who you guys work with, but distribution of Signatory is very slim. I think Illinois gets everything, but I'm not seeing anything in Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, Kansas. I don't see a lot of that. Is there a reason why? Is it because you have not worked with any of the distribution in the area? What why is that? Because it seemed like we're always the last people. Right?
I'm sorry.
We are always the last people. But the funny thing is, like, a lot of people following now are from the Midwest. They're in Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota. And you may think in your head that, those people are just bourbon lovers or not. But, my buddy Steve right here, he have some single malt that are older than you, Charlie. This man and I will sit down and try single malt for hours, right? We'll study it. Like right now, I feel weird because usually when I open any Signatory, I have my drop of water. And every time I drink it, I'm dropping a bottle of water. That's how I study, is dropping water in and breaking down the spirit all the way till the end where I get all the flat notes.
It's a cool way to do it.
Yeah, I like to call walking past the smoke, right? Walking past the peat and get into the real notes of it. So we need to make that happen, Charlie. We need to get more of the retailers here in Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, South Dakota. I'm sure even Minnesota may have some.
Yeah, they got Ace Spirits up there. Carries a lot.
Ace, I know Ace. Yeah, I do shop with Ace, but Nebraska, Iowa, South Dakota, and Kansas, I believe. And somebody just mentioned that they don't have it also in Arkansas.
So do you know RNJ Liquor Store in Kansas?
I heard about it. I only went to Gomer's.
So RNJ just picked out a whole cast that they're going to be bringing in. So that's one maybe to add to your list.
All you Kansas people, you heard it here first. RNJ, you need to go there if you want some cast strength Signatory.
It won't be on shelf till probably a little after 4th of July, but we're going to be bottling it up in the next couple of weeks. Then it has to ship over. But to answer your question, it's distribution and it's kind of share of mind, right? Signatory is a small brand. It's a brand that has rotating SKUs. Since everything is single cask, they need to be evaluating what is going to be able to come down the pipeline. And from a distribution standpoint, it's a lot more work than your standard brand. Your Glenlivet 12, you can just reorder that. You check your inventory, it's running low. You just click reorder for a distributor. Right. The next case comes, they give it to the retailer. every cask of Signatory, single cask, it's a new selling proposition. You have to train your salespeople on every bottle. You have to get the accounts to buy in the first time. You have to convince them why, when that product that sold really well for them last time sold out, now they should try every time. It's a first trial, right? Correct. So it's kind of tough unless it's a specialty whiskey shop and a specialty distributor to be able to get that interest, get that knowledge, get that interest where they want to take the risk on bringing in enough volume to constantly supply these shelves.
I can see it. I can see it because every release is different. So obviously, will people like it or will people, But it brings me to my next question to you. So assuming that, or is your plan for the U.S. is to, what's your plan for the U.S. is it to bring different type of, I would say brand, that backs up Signatory. Like 1 year is Buna Heaven, next year maybe Glenrock, the following year, or are you just bashing them and go, we've taken all 6 of these and we bring it into the U.S. Beside, the cask strength that most stores are now able to pick themselves out. What's your strategy when it comes to the U.S. market?
I want to pause for 1 second because I just got the most beautiful honey note that I've never gotten from this dram before. That was so nice and so atypical for Buna Heaven.
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that weird that you go back to something and you go, I picked up a new note.
It's so much fun. But back to your question on the plan. So our plan is we're going to be rebalancing the portfolio a little bit more towards the cask strength range and the unchill filtered range, and focusing less on the 43%, that 86 proof in the beige tins. We are still going to keep offering it. It's not being discontinued or anything. But historically, our balance had been about 25% of the imports that we bring in would be from that 86 proof range. About 50% would be from the unchill filtered range, and about 25% would be from the cask strength range. Going forward, it's going to be more like 50% cask strength range, 40% unchill filtered range, 10% with that vintage 43%, 86 proof. Because we're just seeing that consumers are really digging on the cask strength bottlings.
I would tell you, you guys shouldn't be doing anything else but cask strength, honestly. Because
the 46% unchill filtered sells a lot. And to finish the thought on the strategy, the unchill filtered, we're going to be wanting to keep a pretty continuous line. There are a couple brands, we want to always have a Glenlivet first fill sherry on offer if we can. We want to always have a Mortlock bourbon barrel, ideally a first fill bourbon barrel if we can. We want to always have an Ardmore X Isla cask if we can. So the idea is, in that range, we want people to be able to familiarize themselves. If there's a product they love, yes, it may be a different cask time after time, but it's going to be something similar. And then we'll explore a little bit. The cask strength range, as I see it, is going to be trying to bring in the most interesting, the most unique. And it doesn't necessarily have to be as repetitive. I want to be tasting the cask. And if it's something that I think the liquid stands up at cask strength, then we want to bring it in and give the people amazing, phenomenal scotch. Doesn't matter what the age is. Doesn't necessarily matter what the cask type is. Doesn't matter necessarily what the distillery is. We want something that the liquid quality will blow your mind. And
so which actually bring me to the question: are the 46% level, are they blended?
No,
are they?
Absolutely not. So it is the only thing added to that range is water. There's no color added. It's not chill filtered, so it does still have all of the natural fats that come out of the cask. The only thing that's added is water.
Because I know I have a couple of the 46% that actually will cloud because they're unchilled.
They all will. They're all unchill filtered.
No, some of them are worse. Like you can see literally going, what am I drinking? What is this? But I actually never even geared towards them. I had them because I'm obsessed with owning a set of things. So that's really why. But I'm like, I don't know. I like my my cask strength, so I will drink that one. But as you can see, this is still in a plastic. because
what are you holding there? What is it?
So this is the Signatory Vintage, Feather Karen. Yeah, Feather Karen 2006.
What's the I might have that one.
12
Feather
years,
Cairns. It's a lovely distillery. It doesn't
yeah,
get enough love.
12 years old. 12 years old, and I'm telling you, it has. I mean, it's part of the vintage. It's a Highland. You know, of course, I'm an Isla guy, but it's a Highland whiskey. 12 years old. 2006. It was distilled in 2006, bottled in 2019, and it's 43% ABV. So it's as you can tell, I have them, but I really don't drink those. I literally go towards the cask strength all the time because
So as a fan of cask strength, I know that bottle. I imagine when you try it, you're going to find the flavors are actually really good. The taste is really nice. I think you're just going to find the body is a little lacking and the finish is a little shorter than you'd like. You know, you as someone who drinks cask strength regularly are going to be wishing it had that little extra oomph, but it's still going to be really good.
it's called Scotch Mist. It is good. So somebody's saying that they're an Durandor fanboy. Love everything they produce.
Thank you, Charles. Yeah, Edredauer is awesome. So for those who don't know and why Charles is bringing up Edredauer, Signatory, the independent bottler, actually owns the Edredauer distillery. So
Okay.
they purchased Edredauer from Pernod Ricard in 2002, and Edredauer for a long time was the smallest distillery in Scotland. Obviously now you've got Ardnahoe, you've got Lag, you've got Isle of Raasay. You know, you've got all of these new distilleries that are popping up, and they're smaller. But just for context, Edredauer, their maximum production that they were able to do until they expanded the distillery a few years ago, if they were running full steam all day, maximum production they could do was 125,000 liters a year.
Wow.
For context, Glenlivet, if they were running maximum production, they could do about 10 million liters per year. And for even more context, just on part of what makes single malt exciting, what makes pot still exciting, Jack Daniel's, not if they were running at maximum, what they actually bottled and sold, you know, actually sold to ship to distributors was 40 million liters. So
wow.
Edredauer is, you know,
very small.
Very small, very small. 1/320th or so the size of Jack Daniel's, if I'm doing my math right.
Are you guys still putting out their products?
We are, yep. So we also bring in Edredauer, and we will be doing some single cask strength Edredauer offerings this year, which will be very exciting. And you, as a fan of Isla, they have a sub brand called Balekin, which is peated Edredauer. Now it's Highland peat, but I think you'll like it a lot because it is still heavily peated.
You know, Charlie, I'm your friend for a reason, and you do have my address. That's all I'm saying. You know, I'm just saying.
We'll talk.
I do take samples. I don't need a whole bottle. I just want to taste it and go, hey, I think I've tasted this before. It's cool.
Now, do you know Edredauer? Because it seemed like that was a new name for you.
No. It was actually, I've seen the name somewhere before, but I'll be honest with you, I've never tasted one.
So here's what I would recommend if you try it, and some things to know about it beyond that is so little. One, I think that along with Glendronach, and I don't represent Glendronach in any way, so this is me being honest.
And I'm a Glendronach fan, so yeah, go ahead.
Along with Glendronach, I think Glendronach and Edredauer are doing the two best jobs in sherry cask aging in the Scotch world today. Personally, my personal view on it. I think I would say this every time. I think Macallan made their name on being the absolute best at procuring phenomenal sherry casks.
Yeah.
But then they got too big. I don't think that there are enough sherry casks to.
I believe they got too comfortable. Honestly, that's how I feel. I feel like and this is coming from the guy who owns the last 5 release of the cask of of the rare and limited Macallan. I have the boutique one. I've had. I think I have Macallan. Every. I would be crazy to tell you every number Macallan beside the number one, which I couldn't find. I have all of them, and I can tell you right now, there's something about Macallan that is no longer being innovative, right? That's the word I can use. Innovative. I feel like Macallan is the royalty of the Highlands, right? It's like we're good, we're here, we've been doing this before Jesus was born, and it's just here, right? But I do not see any innovation coming out of Macallan that will throw me off so much that I will go, whoa, wait a minute, right? So that's the reason why I stopped actually buying Macallan. I buy the number one because the number 6, they are a little different. They fill them separately, but I'll be honest, they have not put out something that just knocked my socks off, right? But I see a lot of brand coming from the Highlands that are doing just phenomenal innovation that are making you go, huh? This is from the Highlands. So
I don't want to talk about Macallan.
No.
And what Macallan might not be doing this.
No. You have no room to speak because you have your brand that you represent. But I'm speaking as a consumer, right? Because I'm a consumer too.
I am a consumer too.
As a consumer, I know that I love my Macallan the rare cast, and I'm okay with that. But if I have to run into anything else after that, beside the number ones, everything else just come off a little gimmicky, or the boutique and the whatnot. Okay, good for you. Show me something else, right? Show me something else.
So coming back kind of full circle, I think that Macallan, whether it's your view that they're just not being innovative enough, or my view that this what they were sourcing in the 70s, 80s, they just couldn't keep up with that quality of cast selection. For the longest time, I really thought that it was Glendronach that picked up that mantle. And I think the market has looked at it. And if you look at kind of prices on the Glendronach single cast and things like that, and it's all deserved. I mean, Glendronach has been doing a phenomenal job. What I didn't realize, and this is me wearing my consumer hat, I'm saying this legitimately, Edgedour is right there. And it actually, Andrew Symington, who picks the casks, also does the Signatory cask selection. The sherry casks that are selected are just so special because personally, I'm not the biggest fan, and maybe this discredits what I'm saying, but I'm not the absolute biggest fan of overwhelming sherry bombs. because
you're not the only one. A lot of people in the industry, I know some single malt lover that would look at you and say, if it's sherry cask, I will pass.
I'm not going to pass. It's just, I don't want a sherry cask where it tastes like I'm drinking cask strength sherry. I want something where the sherry and the malt interplay together. And so what I find from Edgedour, what I find from Glendronach, and what I find from a lot of the Signatory sherried offerings is that they maintain both of those. You get so much of that beautiful sherry. Sorry, the phone's going off. You get so much of that beautiful sherry influence.
Let's take a pause and realize that you have a home phone.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm at my parents' house. I'm at home visiting my parents right now.
Let's take a moment and give a shout out to home phones. because I don't know who else still have home phones.
Pour a little out for the home phone.
I thought the home phones were RIP, but you revived the home phone. I fucking love this. Thank you. You know what, Charlie? It's okay. Parents' house. Let's go with I'm in my parents' house. You love old phone. It's okay. You still have a landline.
Look, I'm in hurricane country right now. When the power goes out, the landline still works.
It still works. I agree.
Anyway, yeah, I just think that what they do with sherry is so good, and it's so cool because you do still get to taste the distillate, the base distillate. I used to work for Glenlivet before I came and started working with Signatory.
Okay.
I have no qualm saying the 4 best Glenlivets I have ever tried all have come from independent bottlers, and 3 of them were from Signatory. And they are all sherry cask finished. And this coming from someone who doesn't love sherry casks.
That is a statement. That is a statement right there. So I would tell you right now, I consider Signatory, I call Signatory pretty much the Pokemon of single malt, right? You got to catch them all, right? That's literally how I look at Signatory. Signatory is the Pokemon of single malt. You got to catch them all. Each one is different. Each one have their own characteristic. You know, I can wake up in the morning and go, Buna Heaven 2007. I choose you, right? That's for me how I look at Signatory. Because,
and you know what's great? You can get a 2007 that's 11 years old, a 2007 that's 12 years old, 2007. So you can see the evolution too.
I know the evolution of the Pokemon. So, you know, you're welcome, Charlie. I would take my 5% on that when you actually make it a thing. Signatory is truly the Pokemon of whiskey, and that's really why I wanted to talk to you.
We don't have the marketing budget to pay the licensing fee to use the Pokemon name. I'm sorry, man. That one's gonna stay with us.
Somebody said their mother won't get rid of their landline, so you're okay. You're okay. But that's really why I wanted to talk, because being a single malt lover, I feel like, you know, independent bottlers are doing their thing. Shout out to all the independent bottlers, are doing amazing. But to be an independent bottler, to truly bring in single malt at, you know, cask strength, one distillery, one cask, you know, and just making it amazing the way it is, but also producing so much difference in it. You guys literally win the championship of the independent bottlers. Now, I don't like your prices so much, but I still
nothing I can do about that. There's nothing I can do about that.
I still believe you guys are doing so much. So tell us a little
bit.
Wait,
let me hop in and talk about price for a second, since you brought it up.
Yes.
So you mentioned when you did your intro before I came on about how a lot of the time, or some of the time, when you work with independent bottlers, you're actually getting a better price than you would from.
True.
And let me shed some light on why that could actually be. Because if you're thinking about it and you're going, wait, the distillery had to sell it to the bottler and they had to make their margin, and the bottler had to sell it and import it, and the distributor, isn't it just another layer of margin that has to happen? Here's my view on it, and this is from someone who's worked with a big distillery and someone who's working for an independent bottler. What you'll notice is our packaging hasn't changed for about 30 years. You know, what we're supplying you with is our liquid. We don't pay for marketing. We don't pay for fancy ads. We don't get, you're doing this out of the kindness of your heart. You're not getting paid to say that you love Signatory. You're just doing it.
I can tell you right now, I'm telling people on YouTube that I'm not getting paid, and on IG that I'm not getting paid to talk about Signatory. But we have Charlie here, Charlie, the man and the only, here on Signatory. Catch us on Facebook, on YouTube, for us to actually to know more about Signatory. Yeah, I'm doing that for our story on IG, so people on Instagram can actually catch you if they need to.
But I think the biggest difference, as far as I see it, is we take a flat margin across all of our, and I'm getting into some of the commercial side of things here. We take a flat margin across all of our products, regardless of if it's 5 years old or if it's all the way up to 40 years old. It doesn't actually cost that much to age something for a long time. It does carry costs. You're also losing cash flow by not being able to sell it. But if you're working for, Balvenie and you're selling your 50-year for $30,000, you're making an insane margin on that cask. And you need to, because you're using that to support price reductions on your core products, on the double cask, right? You're in a war against Glenlivet, and you're in a war against Glenfiddich, and you're in a war against Glenmorangie, all trying to fight to get to that lowest price point. So you're the option that people who are new to the category reach for when they're trying single malt. Mm-hmm. And you're having to fund all of your marketing. And so for us, No, we don't have the flashy bottle. No, someone's not going to see this on the shelf and say, it's not in a giant box. It doesn't come with an award. It does, it's not going to have that where someone looks across your shelf and says, what's that giant thing up there? But if you're the type of consumer who cares about the liquid and wants the best bang for their buck, you're going to get it from an independent bottler, particularly if you're looking at something with a high age statement. I'm loving this comment.
Sam, that's a very interesting comment, because I would tell you right now, I have plenty of Signatory, but Signatory is the only independent bottler that when I buy, especially at Castrate, I go, I probably should buy two. It's over $199 after tax usually, but I'm like, I probably should buy two, because if I freaking love it, I'm gonna hit the fact that I have to finish the bottle, right? Because you guys are doing single cask, one barrel, one cask, one distillery, and now it's like, okay, this bottle right now is one of 290.
Yeah.
So which number do you have right there?
I've got 31 out of 290, and keep in mind that's only 290 bottles, and it's only 5 years old. So when these things age.
I have 213 out of 290. So I have the only bottle that is here. So I would tell you something. Sam. Here is what I would tell you. And, make sure you like and follow my page. That's one. But two, open it with somebody you really care about, because he's only going to make this experience so much better, right? Open it with somebody you really, really care about. And if you love it, you're never going to forget that moment that you had with that person. Tell your brother to get out of the frame.
Yeah. Come on, Ben. Get out of the frame. So that Glenlivet 13 years, is that the 2007 in the first fill sherry? Because that cask is absolutely beautiful.
Is the two that I'm hoping
the one that came up in the comment.
Yeah. So yeah, I would tell you right now, there's nothing better than to open a bottle with somebody. Like, it's like I've had a lot of Octomores, right? A lot of Bruichladdich stuff. But the only reason why Octomore 10 is so important to me is because I opened it with my best friend, right? And we sat there in the middle of the night listening to Hawaiian radio station and drinking Octomore. And it's the best night of my life, right? Steve and I just sat there and just listened to this thing, and we were talking about the peat that we are getting in this thing. And I would tell you right now, go for it, but do it. She said yes, that's the one that she have. That's the one that you have.
Sam, that's an incredible cask. I echo what we're hearing here. Make sure you open it. Someone special, someone who will appreciate it. It's high proof, but it drinks a lot lower proof than what is showing on the label. It's a good one. Speaking of, should we crack our next one? We got
what do you want to open next?
Well, we've been talking about all this sherry. Why don't we pop this Buna Heaven? And we already have Buna Heaven. Why don't we move from peaty Buna Heaven over to sherry Buna Heaven?
I was about to move to, I don't know if you had the party source one. You don't have that one.
I don't know.
Because
they got the whole cask.
You're not cool enough.
I'm not cool enough.
Which one? The Buna Heaven
2007, 13 year, I think.
I don't have that one.
Oh, I thought you said you did. Cask number 5.
I know I have the 2009 11 year and the 2007 5 years. That's what I have. 2007 5 years.
Ah, I see.
Oh no, I do have the 2007 11. 13 years, you say?
I think so. Yeah, it's a 13 year. That's okay.
I don't know if I want to open this.
You don't need to open it.
I'll
just drink a little bit of it and make you jealous. That's fine.
But I will tell you right now, I'm gonna pour me this party source that I've been drinking. As you can tell, one of my favorite, and so the reason why I actually start talking about you can get something cheaper than the normal one is because I try to get some Glenbroth, more than 10 years, and the price was ridiculous. But I love this one chosen by a Party Source. So trust me. What do you say? You do, but they don't. Okay. Uh, what do you call it?
So what did that Glen Rothis run you? Give me the stats on it. What's its age? What did it run you? What's its ABV?
So this Glenrod is 2010, 10 years old. Picked it up last year. It was distilled in 2010, maturing in Hedgehog, so they don't put any particular Hedgehog. 64.5% ABV, by the way.
That's a fiery guy.
Yeah. And, is a Party Source Select. Really love it. It's a Space Side, and, for a Space Side, you think about Space Side whiskey is more spicy. I like to say Space Side is the girl with an attitude. That's how I like to call her. It's like, I do whatever I want. Highland is more like your dad. It's consistent. It has some wisdom, and it's the profile. Isla is literally the jock of the school. He pushed people in he's pushing people. He's making everybody proud in the school, but he can be a jerk every now and then because most people cannot stand it because of the peat and the smoke.
And
but
he's big too, and he's big.
is big too. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. That's how.
But hold on. So in that scenario, what's Campbellton? The nerd?
Oh my God! You literally took the words out of my mouth. When I teach Scotch school, I tell people, think about walking back into high school, right? You have the principal. You have the girl that is mysterious but cool. You have the jock. You have the nerd. And obviously, that's how I describe each island.
So who are the lowlands? Who are the lowlands?
The lowland is you see that girl that you knew high school wearing the dark makeup, emo, never talks to anybody, and when you look at her, she literally says the devil's about to take your soul, but yet she's probably the sweetest person you've ever met in your life. Like just the nicest and the sweetest person you've ever met.
Who'd you go to high school with?
I know, right? But lowland for me is mystery, right? But that when you approach any lowland, they're everything that any bourbon lover can walk into. For me, bourbon lovers, I introduce them to lowland first before any other island.
Do you normally do single grain, or do you bring them into lowland single malts?
Lowland single malt. So I usually start with my all-time favorite, Oakentoken. So I go for that first. We start with some Oakentoken 12 before we start talking.
That's your all-time favorite is Auchentoshan?
I can be sleeping and I can detect that out of any lowland because it has a specific toffee
and a creaminess.
Cutie. Yeah. Like it reminds me of cuties. Those orange cuties that kids will eat. And I used to do that to my daughter all the time. So it has that. It's not tangy, but it's sweet.
Okay, yeah.
It melts in your mouth. It reminds me of those cuties and toffee. So cuties and toffee is what you get from it. And I tell anybody that caramel toffee, that cuties, kind of tanginess and lemon zest, push their flavor profile forward, which remind you of a very light, bourbon that you are getting into. So,
well, I'm excited for all the stuff that's coming back to the lowlands, because what I've found, current lowland stuff is not my most favorite. It's just so subtle and really light and kind of grassy. But like St. Magdalene.
Good question. What does hedgehog taste like? Because every time I see, they always say mature and hedgehog. I'm like, where is it? So that's a good question. Do you know?
Nah, it's hogshead, not hedgehog.
Hogshead. That's what it is.
Hogshead.
That's what happened when you were tasting cask strength. You can't read no more.
But Charles, I don't know what a hedgehog tastes like. I know a hogshead tastes damn good though.
But now that I've amused the whole gallery, I'm gonna ask my last question before I take all your hour here.
Oh man, I'm happy to stand as long as you want me.
For bourbon lovers, I introduced to Highland, maybe Speyside, sometime ex bourbon cask. Send them to Isla last year. Isla, you can't just introduce people to Isla.
It's a shame that so many people, that's their first experience with single malt. Someone's like, here's a Lafroig 10. And you just go, oh, single malt's terrible. I love Lafroig 10. You probably love Lafroig 10. But if you don't, that's going to be the worst introduction you can possibly have.
I tell people, when it comes to introducing people to Scotch, start at the bottom of the island and start moving to the side and come back to the bottom. It represents a U for me. From the lowland, we're going back to Highland, Speyside, coming back to Campbelltown, and then we come to, because I can't do every single person that tell me I don't like Scotch or I don't like single malt. All have had an experience. They literally go, oh yeah, it's Band-Aid and ashtray, and that's literally you hear the same word from anybody. Medicinal, Band-Aid,
Band-Aids, rubber.
You hear those things, and it's so sad because there's so much more. And I start by teaching people, hey, do you know that most single malt start their maturation in bourbon cask? And they go, what?
What?
That bourbon that you love so much, literally after it's done, most people can't use it anymore. So guess who takes it? Single malt people.
I'll add on another fun fact that you can use when you're talking to people if you're introducing them to sherry casks. The majority of sherry made in the world, well, I guess mostly in Spain, but made in the world, is never even intended for consumption. They use it just to season casks, pour the sherry down the drain, sad as that is, and then send the casks to Scotland. More people want sherry cask matured Scotch than want sherry, literally. That's crazy. That's just absolutely crazy.
Because sherry itself is too powerful.
I tried a Pedro Jimenez a glass of PX, a glass of Pedro Jimenez sherry, because I've had all these PX cask whiskeys, and I was like, all right, let me go to the source material. Let me learn about the reference. I tasted it. It was so overwhelmingly concentrated and sweet. I literally had to add water to it. I don't add water to cask strength whiskey. I had to add it to that, not because of the alcohol. It was so sweet.
I will say I had that experience with Cavalan sherry.
Yeah.
I mean, if I pulled that bottle out, it looked slowly dark.
You can't see through it. I've got two of them. I've got one that's a Mysonda whiskey pick and one that's just a single cask Cavalan, and you can't see through them.
Somebody's getting excited. They say sherry is not too powerful. It's fantastic. But I would tell you right now, sherry is good, but for me, it's like for me, sherry is more like it's like that. You see how wood is made? That polish, when something is sanded, it looks beautiful, right? Sanded, it feels soft, but that polish on it just make it perfect. Sherry, for me, when you make any single malt, don't age it max and give me 6 months in the sherry. I'm good. I don't need it more than that.
I'm telling you, try a Signatory first fill sherry cask, a Signatory Glenlivet specifically. They age them 12 or 13 years, full term in first fill sherry. And somehow Andrew picks casks where the sherry is not overwhelming. It blows my mind.
I'm going to look for it.
That's one I can send you a sample of.
Okay.
How about that?
I'm good with that. Wine specialty from okay. I'm excited. I'm a certified sherry wine expert. Okay. So it's one of those things where maybe people just love it or hate it, right? Either way. Or just really, but for me, it can be overpowerful sometimes. and I don't need it to be that much powerful. For me, it has to be like that little salt on top of my meat that already have flavor, right? That's really what the best way for me to describe, you know. Well, Sam, what are bottle I need to look for? Now I would tell you right now. One of the things I want to ask as the last question is, we know what is coming into the U.S. Can you give me maybe a little rundown of things that are coming in the U.S. that people should be looking for? Because you mentioned beanies, KNL, KNL in California, beanies. You mentioned Total Wine. I'm assuming will be having.
Actually, we don't do much with Total Wine.
Okay,
so we just don't. So the issue, not really an issue generally, but the issue with Total Wine is they've got about 200 stores. Our products have about 200 bottles. So we can't supply their stores because we just don't have enough products for them to actually put it on enough shelves.
Okay. So specs, you did mention
specs yep.
In Texas.
So I'll tell you some of the cool stuff we have coming in for nationwide distribution. We've got a Strathmill cask coming in that I've tasted, that I personally selected, that is absolutely amazing. And it's not going to be crazy expensive. We haven't gotten the final pricing, but it should probably hit the shelf around $110, $120. It's going to be cask strength. And it is not the most unique Scotch in the world. It's not really the most complex Scotch in the world, but it is one of the most delicious. It is just so good. It has enough depth. It doesn't have a lot of breadth in complexity, but the notes it has go so deep. And it's a first fill hogshead, first use hogshead. So it's not even like a refill bourbon cask. It's a virgin oak. It just, the finish goes on forever. It is beautiful. So that's one that I'm super excited about. We're going to be having, like I mentioned, a couple Edgedour casks. So we're going to have a Sauterne cask finished Edgedour coming in. We're going to be, or we're planning to. We're seeing if we can actually get a cask of it because they're really limited. Some wine cask finished Edgedour. We're going to be bringing in more Stoicia at cask strength. We're going to have some more Glenlivet that's sherry cask matured. So we should be having some really cool. I think we're probably going to bring in another 15 to 20 casks somewhere in there for nationwide distribution before the end of the year. Then we got.
How can the people be aware of those releases? Because a lot of people that like Signatory, unless they go into that store, how can they be aware? Can I be on a list of things that are coming to the U.S.? How do I know?
The best thing to do is I manage Signatory's Instagram. It's at Signatory USA. And it's been dormant for a while because we haven't had a lot of new cool news to report. But every time that we have new casks coming in, I will tease them with the specs that are on there. I tag accounts that normally carry the product. You can always message at Signatory USA. I'm the person who manages it. So you'll get in direct contact with me and I'll ping you a response back. If you want to ask where it's distributed near you, I can hopefully try to find a retailer. Distribution can be, thank you for throwing that up there. Distribution can be a little choppy in some states or even some states are absent for Signatory. We've been on Reserve Bar in the past. And so we might be able to do e-commerce through Reserve Bar. We'll try and find a way to get it to you. Just
Reserve Bar is where I got like the last 4 Signatory. But I can tell you that's where I realized that your distribution may have had some issues because Reserve Bar made me wait from when they posted about Signatory in November. Yeah, that was right before, a month, like a couple weeks before Thanksgiving. And I did not get my bottle till February.
That's too long.
They literally sent 3 emails.
I will take some. I don't want to put it all on Reserve Bar. Some of it is an issue where just by nature of Signatory, the way Reserve Bar normally works, they have retailers they partner with who carry the product. And as soon as an order is placed, that retailer packages it and sends it. Given how limited the stock for Signatory is, we couldn't follow that model because we couldn't just send them to retailers hoping that that these would get sold through on Reserve Bar. So deliberately, we worked with them where there would be about a 3-week to 1 month lag, which is why they listed it as a pre-order. They'd collect the orders, we would ship them to the retailers, and then they would get out. So that was by design. It shouldn't have taken 3 months. I know we did have some retailer issues. We did have some supply chain issues with distributors. In one market, the distributor, after having signed up, flat out refused to fulfill any orders for Reserve Bar. So there were some unforeseen complications. I'm sorry that it took 3 months to get to you. I'm glad it got to you in the end. I hope you enjoyed the bottles that you did get.
There's a couple of them that they just couldn't, they refunded me for those because they were on the website. But
really?
And really? I was like, oh, it must, in my mind, I'm like, oh, it must just be rare, or, it
is
really
fast.
Is. But like you just mentioned, if you're on Instagram, make sure you follow at Signatory USA. I would challenge you, Charlie, to make sure that any new release coming to the US, you make it known or post it there so people at least know where to go, because I literally have your notification turned on right now on my Instagram. And if you guys need to know, go into Signatory and make sure you turn your notification on. That's the 3 dot on the right of the profile and turn the notification on. What it's going to do is every time he posts something, you get notified that he posted something. So if you have a friend in a state that actually can get you something that is posted, that works. Because I can tell you, you can sell, literally like that, right?
And we may mix it up this year. What we did last year was I called it Teaser Tuesday. It normally takes from the time we buy a cask, from when they have to print the labels, bottle it, package it, get it on a container, ship it over, gets to the warehouse, gets out to a distributor, gets from the distributor to a retailer. It can be over 2 months from the time we actually pay them to the time that the bottle is on a shelf. So I did Teaser Tuesday, where every Tuesday leading up, I would tease a new cask that was coming to the US. And if you go onto our page, you can see kind of what the format is that I did that with. I talked about what the bottle yields were. And then you can message me and just ask if a retailer is going to carry it in your area. In some cases, they might not, but you can always go to your retailer if you know there's a product you want. Correct. And they can request it from their distributor. It's an uncomfortable thing to do as a consumer, but if they know they have a guaranteed sale, they want that sale. They will bring in a product for you.
Trust me, I ask my retailers all the time, like, hey, this Glendornock is coming out. Are you going to get it? No? Okay, let me ask somebody else, right? This Signatory is coming out. Are you going to get it? No? Okay, let me look at someone else. So I will tell you right now, as a consumer, it is your 100% right to actually go to your retailer and ask them, maybe this is now your opportunity to tell them, hey, maybe you should think about considering Signatory, because, if 1, 2, 3, 4 people are asking this, they will consider having it on. Right?
Absolutely. So, absolutely. And if not, like I said, just message the account. You will be connected directly to me. I'm not on that account every day. I'm not on Instagram every day, but I'll try and get back to you in a day or two. And if you have questions, you can talk to me as often as you want. Those are those 30th anniversary bottles.
This is what I was mad about, because I've been looking for it and I still can't find it anywhere. And I literally, when you posted that day, I started looking for it. And I'm like, this probably is going to go in somebody's auction somewhere, because I couldn't find it anywhere.
So we've still got it in inventory at our warehouse. So if you want to talk if you know a retailer that carries Signatory, talk to them. They can get it for you tomorrow. It's a high value item. We can get that over to them.
Okay. All right. You, ladies and gentlemen, this is the man, the myth, the legend, the only person that represents Signatory here for us in the US, Mr. Charlie himself. If you guys want to know more about what he does, go follow at Signatory USA on Instagram. Don't bombard the man. He actually
bombard me. Please bombard
me. He actually works for a living, and he will be more than happy to answer all your questions and anything you may have to do. And I will tell you guys right now, if you look behind me, all the Signatory that you see, if there is a brand that you as a single malt lover, there is a brand that you should probably look into as, hey, let me totally get this thing here as a hunt. Got to collect them all. Got to get to him. Look behind me. You want to grab any of these vintage stuff because you are not going to regret it. But you can actually even be like me and talk to all your friends that are abroad. Like, because this one came to me outside of Nebraska, and say, hey, if you find any Signatory vintage at any store, talk to me. I tell people, make good whiskey friends, because if they know what you like, they will go ahead and grab it for you. And I personally want to tell y'all, you want to look up Signatory. There is a reason why I don't have anybody on my channel. I want brands that are for the people, love people, and obviously are pushing knowledge and, the ability to taste something extraordinary always forward. So
before we break, let me throw my consumer hat on for 1 second. I'm going to take it right back to the beginning. The first thing you said was people may not know about independent bottlers. If Signatory is not available in your area, let me encourage you to go and find a different independent bottler and try them. It will change your experience. If it's single cask, all the better. It will change your experience with Scotch. If it's not us, try someone else. Look at the Scotch Malt Whiskey Society. Look at Duncan Taylor. Look at Jewels of Scotland. Look at A.D. Rattray, Gordon MacPhail.
Yeah.
I mean, Cadenhead, which is owned by Springbank.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many phenomenal bottlers out there that will open up an entirely new world of Scotch to you. Before I even started working for Signatory, for the past probably 5 years, I've exclusively bought independently bottled Scotch, because once that door opened, single cask
is one of them. Yeah.
And single cask nation is another one. I mean, once that door opened for me, there was no going back. So if we're not available in your area, please just try and explore this area of the industry, because it is such a gem that not enough people know about.
I have an independent bottler bottle that when it came on the market, I'm not going to say it because people are going to go crazy.
Tell me offline though.
When it came on the market, it was $185 about 5 years ago. And today, retailers are selling that same bottle at $1,600, because it's almost a 25 or 30 euro Macallan that was just independently bottled, and people just walk past it because it was plain looking. It was just okay, and it was $180. I literally saw a store and I looked at it. It was $1,600.
Just remember, what you're paying for is the liquid, not the bottle it comes in with an independent bottler.
So for all of you guys watching, I want to thank you all for always supporting the channel. Heard Sommelier on Instagram. If you look on my left, you can follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on Facebook or on YouTube here. Make sure you turn your bell on, so every time we have any of these moments, we can actually hear together. If you're watching the recast, I want to thank you for actually watching. And make sure you go and like, follow, put a comment. Tell us which Signatory you love. Which Signatory is your favorite? And maybe I'll get Charlie to get you a sample. I don't know. He's the man. He got all the keys. He got all the keys. But Charlie, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for taking your Wednesday and coming and talking. This is Whiskey Wednesday. I'm glad I had a chance to finally talk.
I didn't even realize it was Whiskey Wednesday. Yeah. Shame on me.
Know that you have a true fan here. And anytime anything is coming up, make sure to reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to blow it up to the hood. You are now part of the hood. Signatory USA is now part of the hood. We'll welcome you anytime. If there's anything you want to talk about, please come on in here. We'll be more than happy to talk to our people. We have about 10,000 people that follow me on IG, 3,000 people here on YouTube, and about 5,000 people on Facebook. And I'm always happy to share the knowledge and plug people in to know.
I can't wait for the day people log on and they're like, he only had 10,000 followers? How's that possible? Listen, I'm happy to come on anytime you'll have me. We can do drinks anytime. I'll make sure that you get a couple samples coming your way, and I'll look for your honest feedback. I always want honest feedback. Just because I send you something, I don't want you to say you love it, but I have a good sense for what you like. And please, you, everyone who's following, feel free to use me as a resource. I'm at Signatory USA on Instagram. It's at Whiskey Charlie on Whiskey Base. If you don't know Whiskey Base, it's a phenomenal resource, particularly if you're interested in independent bottlers. I review every bottle of Signatory that comes to the US that's not a custom cask that a retailer has purchased. So if you're not sure if the notes are for you, since it is a single cask, look up Whiskey Charlie on Whiskey Base. It will have a review. I don't score them because I want you to know that it's my unbiased opinion. So I just give you the tasting notes. And I mean, thank you so much for having me. Thank you, everyone who's been here, for everyone who will stream this later. This is an absolute joy.
I appreciate this. And obviously, yeah, I just bought a few things from Whiskey Base, and they were all independent bottlers. I'm more excited than you can think about, like a little kid at Christmas. Charlie, thank you so much for coming. Thanks to your parents for letting you be on a camera this long. We appreciate them still having some landline. And tell your brother to get off the frame. This is not his moment. This is only you.
Now I'm embarrassed. I don't live with my parents. I'm just here on vacation.
Charlie, it's okay. It's okay. We love you just the way you are, brother.
If only that was everyone's mentality, man. Everyone just spread the love people for who they are, let them do their thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate it. And we are out. Peace.